mo.
He's got me walking that grief walk.
Going slow mo.
He's got me talking that grief talk.
Going slow mo.
He's got me clocking the way.
It's the Miami Night Show.
Hey, yeah.
Slow mo.
He's got me walking that grief walk.
Going slow mo.
He's got me talking that grief talk.
Going slow
He's
mo.
got me clocking the way.
What up, Tribe? It's Miami Night Show Master Grief Coach. Welcome to the Miami Night Show. You got me walking that grief walk. It's time for Grief Talk, y'all.
I talk about things you think about.
It's Miami Night Show Master Grief Coach.
Alicia Campbell is a wife married for 29 years to husband Anthony and the mother of two amazing sons, Rashad and Ahmad, and a bonus mother to daughter Deana Hawkins. She's a full-time employee for Vance County as a senior finance technician. She's a duo lead singer and two choirs at St. James Missionary Baptist Church in North Carolina. On October 2nd, 2016, her 21-year-old son, Ahmad Campbell, and Alisia Dieudonne, who both attended Southern A&T University, were slain by an unknown gunman after an altercation broke out during an off-campus party. They were innocent bystanders who got caught in the line of gunfire that fatal night. Both mothers have built a bond and have started foundations in the honor of their children. Alicia started the Ahmad Campbell Foundation Inc. in 2018 to assist students to further their education in honor of Ahmad. Alicia is a member of Moms Demand Action Wake Forest chapter and a 2020 fellow of the Everytown Survivor Network. Let's welcome her. Alicia Campbell is a wife.
Welcome back, Grief Nation listeners. And today on our show, I have a very special guest, Alicia Campbell. And she is a part of my segment series, Everytown Survivor Network Edition. She is a gun violence prevention advocate, and she's the voice of her beloved son, Ahmad Campbell. Hello, Alicia. How are you?
Hi, Miami. How are you today?
I met Alicia in Miami at our fellows training, and she has been just an amazing sister to me over this time since February, since I got an opportunity to meet her. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing about as the best I could be at this moment because it's been a struggle for us this morning.
It has. It has. But we're going to get through it.
We are going to get through it.
We'll get through it.
We're going to jump right in because I would love you, I love you, of course, but I would definitely love for you to share your story and your journey and grief and all things that have occurred with your family. Can you please just tell us a little bit about your journey?
So my journey started on October 2nd, 2016, when my oldest son, Rashad, received a phone call from one of Ahmad's friends that Ahmad had been shot. So he woke me up. He knocked at the door. He was like, "Mom, we have to go to Greensboro." And I was like, "Go to Greensboro? It is 3:30 in the morning. What are you talking about?" So he proceeded to say Ahmad had been shot. At that point in time, at that moment, all I could say was Jesus. And at that moment, I knew that Ahmad was gone, but I did not know. So from that point on, so I had to wake my husband up, and I woke him up, and I was like, "We gotta go." He was like, "What is it?" I said, "DeVaris is on the phone saying that Ahmad has been shot." So my husband jumps up, and he immediately say, "I knew we should have made him come home. I knew we should have made him come home." So anyway, so we proceeded to get dressed and head to Greensboro, which was an hour and a half drive, which felt like 6 hours to us. Not knowing, we tried to talk to someone at the hospital, but they wouldn't give out any information. The only information she did get to my husband is, when we get there, we need to talk to the chaplain, which was another sign to us that it was not good. So once we got there, my oldest son, Rashad, and I, we hopped out the car once we pulled in the parking lot to see, so my husband could have a chance to find a park, because we wanted to get to Ahmad as fast as we could. So we take off running, ran totally the wrong way. Mm-hmm. We went to the actual entrance of the main hospital and had to run back around to the back where we first got out the car. We was in the right place. And because their emergency room is like downstairs, like down in the very bottom, basement-like. So needless to say, we ran in and went to the desk and said, who we were or whatever. And so the lady said, well, a nurse will be out to get you shortly. So I'm sitting there praying and just saying, God, please save my son. Just, let him be okay. So then the nurse comes out and get us, and we noticed that she take us to another area, not where everybody was going, that we were seeing people going into the emergency room. She kind of took us on this back hall, which was another sign, was not a good sign, because she wasn't taking us where patients were.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. So we proceeded to go back to the back room, and a doctor, a nurse, a detective came in the room with my husband and I and our son, Rashad. And when they came in, they sat down. We were already sitting. And he said, Ahmad didn't make it. So we all just started just boohoo crying. And I noticed my oldest son, he was like, no. And he went and hit the wall. And so I'm seeing this, and I could hear my husband crying. I couldn't see because I was crying myself. Eyes closed, but I could just feel the spirit in this room. And so then I was hyperventilating, couldn't get myself together. So the nurse was like, ma'am, you have to calm down. You have to calm down. You're going to get sick. You're going to get sick. So I did, finally calm myself down. And at that point, I just started praying. I didn't know anything else to do. I had to pray for my family because I could see the hurt and pain. I felt it for myself, but I could see it in my son and my husband. So I just immediately started praying, and I looked. The doctor was crying, the nurse was crying, the detective was crying. And I was like, y'all in here crying. I'm the one that's lost the son,
Yeah.
So, so we all just, so finally I got it out, got myself together. And then I had to go out to the waiting room to let my friends know that he was no longer here with us. And by that time, my sister had made it there. So she knew when I walked out, it was not good. So she could see it in my face. And so in that point, and then so after all that, we finally found out that he was attending an off-campus party because he attended North Carolina A&T. And him and about 9 of his friends were in a back bedroom because it was an altercation at both doors, like the front door and the back door, from my understanding. And so they went to this back bedroom because they heard that someone had a gun. So they had barricaded themselves in this back bedroom. Wouldn't let, it was like nine of them in that room. And so they barricaded the door with a dresser. They turned the lights out. And so one of his friends said, Ahmad, you on the floor? And he said yes. But this was in between the time the gun was shot, that was fired, and it was 3 shots fired from my understanding. And so he said Ahmad answered him. But I don't really believe Ahmad actually answered him. I think he wanted to believe that Ahmad had answered him. Mm-hmm. I think that was his way of thinking he was okay. Yeah. Because they didn't know until after they heard the 3 gunshots, then they turned the light on and they noticed that Ahmad they didn't even notice Ahmad had been shot. Because evidently Ahmad was like on the other side of the bed. And Alicia, they did see her on the floor because she was at the foot of the bed. Mm-hmm. So they all just took off running. So they panicked. They were college students, they was panicking. So they all left out and running, and then they proceeded to call Ahmad, kept calling him, he wouldn't answer. So while he wouldn't answer, they decided to go where his car was parked because another one of the guys rode with him to the party. So they went over to his car, they didn't see him. Then they went back to the crime scene to ask the officers, was someone else shot? They knew the girl was shot, but they didn't know anybody else was. And they was like, yes, a young black male with a gray and black hoodie on, which Ahmad wore his hoodie all the time. everywhere. The same black and gray Nike hoodie. And so, and then they told him, and they's like, well, he's gone on the first ambulance. He's already left. So that's when he called us as they were traveling to the hospital. As right now, it took about 18 months for an arrest. So we're still waiting on that.
I'm so sorry for your loss and that there was another life also affected in this tragedy, because that's really what it was, a tragedy on campus for two slain victims to be to have to leave this world over just senselessness of gun violence. And we will definitely get into what you're doing to continue on with Ahmad's voice and how you have gone through the process of advocating. So thank you so much for painting the picture and the visual of what happened so that we can understand, this is what I'm left with, in the not necessarily all the amazing parts of your son, of course, but these are the nightly grievances and occurrences that we have to visualize as parents or as mothers, and when we think about how our children left this earth. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm truly sorry that you being a mother had to even experience that, but we are here. It's so hard to even remember those times or having to receive that phone call about what happened. So to shed light on the situation, can you just please tell us who Ahmad is outside of how he died? Who was your baby to you?
Okay. Ahmad was my gentle giant. He was so compassionate, humble. He was a person, like, if I sneeze, he would be, here, Mom, here's a tissue. If someone else dropped something, oh, I got it, I pick it up. He was just the sweetest person. Actually, my sister and I used to say all the time, this boy is just too good to be true, because he had one whooping in his entire life. One.
Aww.
And his mom, me, gave him that one whooping,
Uh-huh.
and it was basically because him and his brother would call themselves exploring. They wanted to go out and explore. So they went to this creek in the neighborhood that I never allowed them to go out my sight. Mm-hmm. They were supposed to be playing basketball right up the street. Mm-hmm. And just this particular day, they wanted to go exploring, is what Ahmad said. Mind we was just exploring. He was like 5. Like, exploring? Oh no, you don't explore without letting me know.
I know, that's right.
So I'm at home panicking. Their dad, at that time, he was working swing shift. So at that particular day, he was on second shift. So for me to have to call him off of work was just not a good sign.
Uh-oh.
I said, I can't find the kids. He said, what do you mean? I said, I cannot find the kids. He was like, what do you mean? I said, they went up the street to play basketball, but they're not there. I have drove around the block. I have yelled their names. They're not answering. I don't know what else to do. I'll be there. So by the time he came home, they appeared. Because when I drove around, I saw some bikes at the edge of the woods. Freaked me out. Because I'm like, Lord, somebody have kidnapped them.
Uh-huh.
I said, oh Lord. And they weren't even riding their bikes. It was somebody else's bikes.
Uh-huh.
So then they come strolling across the street. By the time their dad had pulled up, they was like, what's wrong? I said, I've been calling you guys, driving around in the neighborhood, yelling your names. Oh, we couldn't hear you. We was at the creek. At the creek? What? Boys. They were doing boy things.
Yeah. But
still, at that time, I was livid. His brother was probably like 10, and Ahmad was like 5. And I was like, oh, no. Y'all, you do not do anything but what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
And just to say that, after that, our boys, we almost had to make them leave home. Mm-hmm. They didn't go anywhere. They didn't do any partying. Like, just, when they got to high school, they had a little high school. I had to make Ahmad to go to his own prom
Aw.
because Ahmad used to say all the time, because we have a high black on black crime in our county that we live in. And so with that, Ahmad was like, oh no, I ain't going to no parties. I don't have time to be ducking and dodging bullets.
Mm.
Who would have ever thought he would get killed by a bullet? I would have never thought that, because he just didn't participate in stuff like that.
Yeah.
And and Ahmad was really close friends with a lot of young men that were quote unquote gang affiliated.
Mhm.
And they all knew Ahmad, and he knew them. He would speak because that he was just that type of person. He didn't see, like right now today we have a lot of racial issues going on. Ahmad didn't see color. He didn't
Yeah.
see whether he was black, white, Hispanic, blue, purple. He didn't see that. He
Mhm.
always saw the good in people, and they respected him for that. And
Mm.
they always spoke, and they would say, well, Ma, we finna go do some things we shouldn't be doing. He said, okay, I'll holler at y'all later. He would go on by his, he's all right, you good, see you. Because they knew he would not, he just didn't participate in those things. That was not something that he wanted to do. So for him to actually leave this world the way he did, it was very shocking to everyone. All of his friends, they call me or they see me, and like, Mom, we still cannot believe this happened to Ahmad, because he wasn't even a partier. And just for him to go out that night, but he had a bad test and he just wanted to relax his mind.
Yeah. Mm.
That's
Wow.
my baby.
So did you go to counseling after, some time of, losing Ahmad? Did you do any of the counseling or grief work surrounding your
We
loss?
went to grief counseling. The first one we went to was at Duke. It's Duke Hospice, but they do bereavement as well, counseling. And my husband and I went together and met with the counselor one-on-one. It was not good for us. It was hard for us to just sit there, just us two in pain and just to talk about him. It was very difficult.
Yeah.
So towards the end of that session, the counselor actually said, he was like, well, look, you guys seem like you're having a difficult time one-on-one. So he was like, we're going to have a group session where we have other parents that have lost children. Whether it may not be the same thing, same situation, but just loss of a child, period. And we're in a group setting. Would y'all like to do that? And we was like, yes. Because just us talking about him the whole time, it was not for us. We do a lot better with a group. And after that, we joined the loss of a child support group that we meet once a month. And we're still doing that. We did the group session at Duke about 14 weeks. And we haven't been back to them. But we just, after that, maybe about 6 months, we started with loss of a child local group that we have here. We started using them.
And that's interesting that you stated that, because, it's not that counseling is not for everybody. No, we're not saying that. It's just that you have to find what best works for your situation and the type of loss that you've had. And I'm so glad that your counselor just did make other suggestions that, hey, this is probably better for you. And then you kind of knowing that this is what's best for us, and you continued on, because a lot of people don't even go to seek counsel. And then the next thing is they just give up and not try to, do any of the other grief work, like if it is in a setting of a group. So I'm so grateful that you were able to do that. So I'm wondering, as a part of the stages of grief and some of the things that that a typical, grieving process may go through, or one may go through during that time period, was there any part of the framework of the 5 stages of grief, which is, the denial, shock, anger, bargaining, depression, and also acceptance? Any part of those, can you share that you remember being in one of those parts of the process that maybe affected you or that you can remember?
Yes, the denial, absolutely. For a while, like during the week, I was okay. But
Mhm.
on the weekends, because Ahmad pretty much came home about every weekend or every other weekend. And with him not coming in on the weekends was very hard for us. Um, because during the week, like I said, I work during the week,
Mhm.
to work like normal, go to the gym, doing our normal routine during the week. Is the weekends. The weekends were the hardest to get through because Ahmad, we were just so used to him being here. And then just knowing that he wasn't here and he wasn't coming. Like during the week, I was like, okay, he's just away at school,
Mhm.
which he
Yeah.
was. He was in college. So, it didn't bother me that he wasn't here during the week. But on the weekends,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, it was very hard just knowing that I couldn't physically see him. I couldn't talk to him. And our family was such a close knit family that, we used to do phone calls and we would do three-way. Because
Mhm.
like my oldest son, Rashad, was in Charlotte and Ahmad might be in Greensboro. And my husband and I here at home. And we would call them and we might be just watching a football game together, just talking about the football game. And those things, that was hard for us to get through because
Yeah.
we lost that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's very understandable. Um, but- because it got rid of the normacy and the way things were. And that's got to be difficult to experience, no longer having that ability to do that. So out of those complexities of denial, what part of the process do you feel like, if there was any regret at all, are there any regrets, I guess I could ask?
Yes, of course. Like first thing my husband said when I woke him up, he regret not convincing him to come on home because his older brother was here. He's never not came home when his older brother was here because he, looked forward to spending time with his big brother because, he lived in Charlotte. He was away in college. So for them to come here and meet, I mean, like I said, our family was just so close together.
Yeah.
And then, and then after my husband said that, and he said it a couple of times, I should have made him come home. I should have made him come home. I said, I had to stop and think for myself, well, we could have made him come home, but that doesn't mean he would still be here with us because he could have very well had a car accident on
Mhm.
the way home and still not made it home to us. So I just, in my spiritual realm, I just said, it was God's plan. Do I hate the way it happened? Yes, I do. Do I hurt? Yes, I do. But I still had to come to terms with the fact that it was nothing we could have done to prevent it. It was
Mm.
nothing we could have done to prevent it. If we could, we would have. As parents, and Ahmad knows we would do any and everything for him. And if we could have prevented that, it surely we would have done so. But
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much for saying that, because regrets are those reactions that and sometimes we'll react to those conscious negative emotions, not realizing that there's nothing that we could have done to change it or to make anything else happen differently, like you stated, which is so important. And sometimes when interviewing and asking people about regrets, that kind of sits in your solar plex and it's like a, ugh, hard feeling or
yes,
difficult feeling to even answer or to adjust to, because it's stuff that we don't want to deal with. But yet, I'm so grateful that you, in your spirituality, was able to say, hey, we can't keep beating ourselves. And you didn't allow your husband to keep beating himself up about that.
exactly.
And just get into the logic of things, because there was nothing that you could have done differently, as you stated. And so thank you so much for sharing that. In my introduction of you, I stated that you are the voice of Ahmad. So what does that mean to you as his mother?
As a mother of Ahmad at a young age, probably about maybe first or second grade, he had even before then, people had difficulty understanding what Ahmad would say. And he used to get frustrated. You could see the frustration in his face that people couldn't understand him. For one, he was very shy. So, and he wouldn't look people in the face. He'd bat his eyes and be all over the place. He could never actually look you face to face. Not his mom, not his dad, not his brother, no one. He would actually look at you face to face. And so he had this little speech impediment, and so I found myself at a very young age, I was his voice. And I became his voice at a young age. And now that he's gone, I am continually to be his voice because he can't speak up for himself. He can't advocate for senseless gun violence. He can't be here. How can he tell people about being out at a off-campus party? Like, he can't say anything anymore. So it is ironic that, I started out being his voice as a young child, and now I'm still Ahmad's voice. Yeah. And I want to use my voice to advocate against senseless gun violence. Because, why was it a gun on an off-campus party? Why? Yeah. I don't understand. I just, a party is a party.
Yeah.
Just don't understand why guns have to be involved.
Absolutely. You talked about him having this speech impediment, and I know off camera we had talked earlier about him having a learning disability. If you had an opportunity to speak to a mother going through the process with raising a child with a learning disability, what would you be able to share from your experience as a mother, and giving some insight to, yes, he had all these things, but he was in college. So what could you share with the early on parts of a motherhood and experiencing that with a child?
So after, he did start speech therapy in like the second grade. So he would get pulled out certain times during the day. But I still noticed that he was struggling in school with his AR reading. He would read the book. I would ask him questions. Me and him worked diligently because he was determined to be successful, because he wanted to be smart, just like his big brother. So I kept going. I've been his voice for a long time. So I went to the school. I said, okay, I have done everything I can do. I have put him in tutoring. I have worked with him. This boy can tell me, I can turn the page and he can tell me about word for word on this page. I'm not understanding why he's still not passing these AR reading goals. I don't understand why he's not still passing. Yeah. Something is missing. So I said, well, can y'all test him? And they was like, well, he don't qualify. What do you mean he don't qualify? Well, when we do these little tests, and he's like the bare minimum. So I got frustrated, and then his third grade teacher wanted to hold him back. Well, Ahmad was born in November, so I didn't want him to be held back. He already didn't start school with he was always the oldest anyway in his class. So I was like, no, don't hold him back. I said, only way you can hold him back if he's not at his goal. That's the only way I would let you hold him back. She was like, well, I don't know what else you want me to do. I said, okay. So I proceeded to go ahead and have Ahmad tested with the psychologist myself, psychologist Dr. McCarthy. He was a great man. And so Dr. McCarthy, he did a screening. And at the end of the screening, we realized that Ahmad had a learning disability in reading. So this is why he was still struggling. And most of it was because he was timed. Those tests, reading tests, were timed. So he needed extended time so he wouldn't be frustrated and he just answered any kind of way. So Ahmad didn't let that stop him. He was like, okay, well, and then he was like, okay, Mom. And, he came to me, he was like, Mom, don't you know, you tell us every morning we pray. And I said, yes, we pray before we go to school, yes. He said, Mom, stop worrying about me. And I was like, son, but Because at the time, I was in school myself to get my associate's degree. He was like, Mom, don't quit school. You can do, I'm going to be okay. And, Mom, I'm good. His famous quote. So with that being said, Ahmad was just so determined to do. So I turned in the information to the school. They was like, oh, you had him tested? I was like, yes. What am I supposed to do? I have done tutoring. I did what they call Silver Learning Center.
Mm-hmm.
I have done everything I could possibly do as a parent, and I refused to let him fail.
Yeah.
So then they gave him extended time. He still had some struggles, but he was no AB student. He was maybe a CD student all the way through until he got to high school. When he got to high school, something just totally clicked.
Wow.
Ahmad was a straight A student.
Hmm.
He surpassed all of that. Now, granted, he still had his individual educational plans. He still had extended time and everything, but he was able to succeed to where he was able to attend North Carolina A&T.
Wow.
And I will say to moms who have children that have some learning disabilities, don't let that stop you. Keep pushing. If your child wants to do it, keep pushing them.
Yeah.
They can do it.
Yeah.
It's nothing that they cannot do. And Ahmad was proof, because when he went off to North Carolina A&T, he still had his IEP plan. The instructors had letters. He was to get extended time and extra tutoring, and that's why he was successful.
Wow, that is so amazing. And thank you for sharing that to mothers or fathers even that do have children that struggle with disabilities, but yet they are still capable of, like you said, succeeding. So thank you so much for sharing that, because that's important. And a lot of times with my show, people just think that it's just about this just grieving process, but there's so many highlights of our children's lives that we must share, because it will be able to touch another individual just by hearing this, and giving them the willpower to just move on. In times that we're all challenged in something. So I'm grateful that you were able to share that. So share with us your advocacy work with Moms Demand Action, and also as far as being a fellow.
So after Ahmad was killed, and I didn't feel like I had, my weekends they were stressful, and I just felt so bad all the time. So I just started searching Moms Against Gun Violence.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to come up with Moms Demand Action. And this was like December 2017. So that's when I went to my first initial Moms Demand Action meeting, which was an hour and 20 minutes away from my house. So my mom, my two sisters, my nephew went with me up to it's a Raleigh, which was the closest place for us at the time, to this first meeting. And I told them, I'm a survivor and I want to get into this. I want to advocate against gun violence because it has affected me.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, to be honest with you, they told me, well, you're the survivor. I was like, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're the survivor. I said, no, my son didn't make it. They're like, no, listen, you're surviving the aftermath. I said, oh, right. Okay. I didn't, you don't think, I didn't think like that.
Right. I didn't either.
I was like, what? I'm not surviving. I just want to advocate. I want to let me know what I can do to change these gun laws, to just work, to just do whatever I can do to make it a better and safer place. Yeah. I do not want another parent to just go through the pain, the hurt, the stress, the depression that I went through.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started with them. And I went to GSU, which is Gun Sense University, in 2018. That was the first time I went. So I went there, and it was in Atlanta. I flew down by myself, and I, met with some wonderful, wonderful people, some survivors. I learned what survival was at the time. But it was so amazing to be amongst people that knew how I felt.
Yeah.
They empowered me to want to do more and more each and every time. So this last time I went in DC, 2019, I met Brenda Moss, who was a speaker for that year that I didn't even know. But, we were sitting in the hotel lobby, and my friend Diane's like, she said, Alicia, you should be a Survivor Fellow. I said, what is that? I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
What is it? She said, I think your story is powerful. You really need, she's like, wait a minute, let me get Brenda. She's a Survivor Fellow. I need to introduce you to. I was like, okay, sure, whatever I can do, I want to do it. If me telling my story is going to help, hey, let's do it.
Yeah.
So she introduced me to Brenda, and that was the day before the big gathering we had. And then when Brenda got up and spoke,
oh my gosh,
oh my,
that speech.
Woo! That speech will get me every time. I listen to it again, over and over again. It was so powerful.
Absolutely.
Oh man, she just gave me the courage. And so when Brenda and I sat down and we introduced ourselves and whatever, and then she was like, well, you look out for the emails, when they announce the application for survivors. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
That you really want to do this, don't you? I said, absolutely. I want to do whatever I can do. And my biggest thing I think I can do is tell my story, because it's my story.
Absolutely.
I can't tell your story, but I can tell my story. And she was like, okay. And so in February, I had the lovely pleasures of going to, I was one of the chosen to go to the Miami to do survivor fellowship training. I met my beautiful, wonderful roommate, Miami. It was so powerful just to be amongst so many people that really understand what you're going through.
Absolutely. And you and I kind of it was like I walked in the door to my best friend. It was like we already kind of knew each other. We were just talking all night long. We would talk, and we would just we had these side jokes while we're supposed to be in our training. We just connected like no other. And I was just so glad. And it was just such a pleasure to be your roommate, to learn about your amazing son and just your story. And we got along so well. We still do. And
yes, absolutely.
You're just always amazing. She always is sharing. It's the Miami Night Show Grief Talks episode. So thank you so much. I really, truly appreciate everything that you do. Yes, we had an amazing time. It was a good time had there, and just a joy to be with each other. And also they're clowning with Brenda Moss there. We had a good time. We truly did. Yeah. So let's talk about the pandemic and has that, what's happening now with the pandemic, with the COVID and just kind of shutting down, and also what's happening in America now with all the social injustices coming to light, even more so now in this time. But has there been any effects or that has called any triggers for you or your family during this time?
Absolutely. The young guy in Georgia, Atlanta, I believe it was, that was killed out while he was jogging.
Ahmad.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, yeah, his name was Ahmad as well. It was very sickening.
Yeah.
It broke my heart because I know my Ahmad, and like I said, he didn't see no colors. So these racial things that are going on now are very trying. I just cannot believe how so many innocent people are just getting killed by these guns. And it does send off tremendous triggers.
Yeah.
Like I have like flashbacks. Like I can remember my son knocking on the door. Sometimes I go to sleep I can hear her knocking the door and there's nobody there, you
Mhm.
know. So it does affect me.
Mhm.
Oh, time and time again, absolutely. And you know, and also with the pandemic going on right now, we have not been to trial.
Mhm.
So I know, of course, that has pushed it back once again. The district attorney still says we're going to go to trial this fall. Will we? I don't know. Um, I really want to get through this
Mhm.
trial and get it over with, because the longer it takes, the harder it is for me.
Yeah.
I talked with Mary, who is also her daughter, Alicia Dieudonne, who got killed the same time as Ahmad. And, you know, she lives in Chicago. So we talk all the time. You know, she has some family here in North Carolina. So, and me and her was saying, are we going to ever go to trial? And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like, and it seems like the longer you wait, the more chances justice won't be served. But do I know that? No.
Mhm.
But it bothers me. And then I'm looking at all these other things that are going on. They waited so long to make arrests with the young man in Atlanta, Ahmad there. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So, you know, is justice going to be served?
Yeah.
Telling her story, getting people to take action. She is a dedicated volunteer and an amazing person, and I'm very glad.
So, as Jessica has told you all, I have myself been affected by gun violence, and I was affected by gun violence on October the 2nd, 2016. My son was away in college, and he was at an off-campus party, and in the midst of this party had some unwanted guests to come to the party, and they were escorted out. Well, because they were escorted out, they were upset because they were asked to leave the party. So instead of them just leaving the party, they decided to shoot 3 times into this apartment, where my son and about 9 of his friends was just barricaded, hiding in a back bedroom to get away from the altercation from the beginning. So with that being said, my son was killed on October 2nd, 2016, and as of today, still no arrests. And I have a big problem with the fact that parents were telling their kids not to speak out. How dare you not tell who did it? Right. I am living this horrible dream right now because no one wanted to speak up. He was an innocent bystander. And not only did he get killed, a young lady got killed as well. And she lived in Chicago. And Chicago has been on the news, and you know Chicago is not a peaceful place. But her mom sent her to North Carolina, not for her to come back in a body bag, which happened. So I encourage you to get out and vote. We need to vote these people out who does not have gun sense.
Vote them out.
Vote them out.
Vote them out. Vote them out.
Thank you, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Still waiting.
Yeah. Oh, that is such a connection with you being a mother that has not gone through the process, receiving justice. And then, like you're saying, hearing of what's happening here in Atlanta with the Ahmad case and how long it took, you know, just to even for the public to even realize what happened, and then to still be in the waitings because of, like you said, court is being held up now, and you have this date and you're participating on having that to be a closure for you. And do we know it's going to actually happen? Oh, my heart goes to you, and I'm just going to be praying for you and your family, and also Alicia's mom and family, that it does happen during that time period. I always often tell friends or groups that I'm in, and if they're experiencing that because they're awaiting trial or whatnot, just pray pray continuously. I know you do that anyway, but
Yes,
pray for the
absolutely.
time and pray for the date, pray for the, that it's not a long trial. Pray, we kind of forget those little intricate things
Right.
in our prayer, because we're just praying, of course, to relieve the stress of our feelings. But
Right.
God says to be specific in
In
your
your prayer.
prayer.
Yep.
So be specific about the time, the date, the how long it's going to take, the justice to be prevailed, and the sentencing. We just have to focus in on that, and I'm going to be praying with you and both of your families during that time when it comes. Now, talk to us about some of the things that you are doing to honor Ahmad, like your foundation.
Okay. So after Ahmad was killed, the people, oh my goodness, were so amazing. We received like so many cards and with money, checks, money orders. It was so overwhelming that our family decided to do an Ahmad Campbell scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then my husband said, well, we can't forget Alicia. I
Yeah.
was like, yeah. So I called Mary. I said, Mary, I said, our family is planning on doing, a scholarship in honor of Ahmad, and we would like to include Alicia. And she was like, oh, that is great. Yes, that's fine. So, of course I had to, because we didn't know each other from just because our kids got killed together. That's the only, because our kids didn't know each other or anything.
Mm.
So it just happened to be. And so I said, but I would like to name my scholarship Ahmad and Alicia Scholarship.
Oh, yeah.
And she was like, oh, that is so nice. We were going to do the same thing. So I'm going to name mine Alicia and Ahmad Scholarship.
Mm.
So getting back to receiving so much money, we received so much money that I was able to, because this was in October, by May, I was able to give away $4,000.
Oh, wow.
I gave away, we have 2 high schools in the county that we live in, which I'm very small here. And each student got $1,000. I got a boy and a girl at the 2 different schools
Mm-hmm.
in honor of Ahmad, and girl in honor of Alicia. I always choose a boy and a girl.
Mm.
And so, and after I did that, and that was just out of just gifts that people gave us.
Yeah.
So my son said, well, Mom, why don't we start a foundation?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what? He's like, yeah, let's start a nonprofit foundation so we can. He said, I want to continue to do this. I want to keep his name alive. I was like, yeah, that does sound good.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point we started researching, trying to figure out how do I start my nonprofit organization, in which I did, and it's the Ahmad Campbell Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And we started that. And what we do, our foundation right now, we just concentrating on giving students scholarships to continue their education, because that's something that, and I target kids that, I try to target kids that, it's hard, because Ahmad was in that in-between medium where, you don't get qualified for a lot of scholarships. So I try to either look for a student that may have ADHD, ADD, or just have some type of learning disabilities, but I can't be specific on that.
Yeah.
So, but I try really hard.
Yeah.
That was my goal, because, Ahmad, he can find any scholarships that he qualified for. So, but I was like, son, just apply anyway.
Yeah.
You never know. Somebody else may not, because they say, well, I don't qualify, and nobody qualifies and nobody apply.
Yeah.
So I pushed the issue, with, go ahead and apply, and in which he did, or whatever. And so now we just continue. We have a annual event each year where we have food and entertainment. This past year was really fun because, like I said, I always include Alicia. So this year we had Family Feud. So we had a Team Ahmad and Team Alicia.
How cute is that?
Yeah, it's the only thing the pandemic messed us up, because Mary then was not able to attend, because at the time we had it, they weren't she wasn't, able to come fly down from Chicago. But we just, we just ended up getting some volunteers to be on Alicia's team because Ahmad team we already had set, which was fun because, even though it hurts, but it's good to have a good time. So we get together, we have great food and entertainment, and it's a fundraiser. And this year we kind of dressed down because the first 2 years we did like a gala, everybody did black tie. So, it was real fancy. And then my husband said, "That's not Ahmad." He was jeans, sneakers. He didn't do that. He wasn't a dress up person. So this past year we actually did Ahmad Campbell Foundation t-shirts and jeans. Okay. So in which it turned out. So we were more Ahmad speed, kind of laid back. So which it turned out really good, Our family also, not only we sell t-shirts, my mom this year, because of the pandemic, has been making masks. So she's making masks every day. And so they give me a portion of that they, receive back to donate back to the foundation.
Wow. You're doing so much. It's so busy. Even during the pandemic, I think we've gotten even busier during the pandemic, right?
Right.
So because of your advocacy work, tell us what are some important self-care things that you've done along your path of grief.
The main thing I started, because I already had some health issues prior to Ahmad's death, but because I'm a type 2 diabetic, so I had stopped working out and just sobbing up everything. And of course I was eating things I should not eat. But since then I have, increased my exercise, trying to lose weight to, get my diabetes under control, in which it happened until the pandemic occurred and we can't go to the gym. So right now I do have a little portable elliptical, just it's not like working out at the gym because you're at home, you're not going to work out as much. I know I don't. So not only that, I, like I said, I got involved with Moms Men Action so I can be busy on the weekends. I'm prepared to speak any weekend anybody asks. I have been to several events to tell my story for moms in Raleigh, Wake Forest, just Durham. I've been several different places to participate in anything that I can, even if I'm just there as a support, not necessarily speaking. I'm there. It's kind of hard to do things for me during the week, Monday through Friday, because I work. But if there's anything that I can do after work or on the weekends, I'm there.
But you haven't told me, like, what are you doing for self-care for you? That's what I want to hear. I know you're going to be advocating all over the world. That's just who you are. You're going to tell this story. That's one thing I do know about you. But how are you taking care of yourself?
Well, actually my husband and I, we started walking. That helped us in the evenings, because we can talk as we walk in the evenings. And then I'm more active at church. I since then have started singing in a choir again.
That's right. Okay.
I hadn't did that in a long time, so I got back into singing in the choir. And like everything that I've started has just been cut out with pandemic, but but I mean, I still love it because I'm still learning new songs because I also like to lead songs. So I'm working on new songs all the time. And my daughter, my bonus daughter, she keeps me busy, keeps me real busy. So we do a lot of shopping. And my husband might not say that's self-care, but
But it's your therapy, right?
but it's my therapy.
Absolutely. And I just think that it is so important because a lot of times with the type of work that we do with our advocacy, we don't take the time to even during the pandemic. I mean, because there has been Zoom after Zoom after Zoom, for our trainings. And, we're getting ready to have our GSU again that's coming up. And we just got over Wear Orange. And, we're always in these activities, but it's so imperative. And Moms definitely does a great job of making sure that we are up to speed with our self-care. There, we do actual trainings and things of that sort. But at the end of the day, do we actually do those things? And I just truly believe that they're important. Your prayer life, breathing, meditation, like you said, being in the choir. For me, it's listening to jazz. Actually, if I'm anxious, one of the things that I've started doing is asking myself, is this particular situation going to detour anything in my life worse than me losing my son? Because that's the hardest tragedy I've had to live through, besides that and my own chronic pain. But is it that bad that I can't make it through this process? So I kind of always alter my thought process when I'm having anxiety or I feel some type of way. I always try to weigh those thoughts because they're mostly intrusive thoughts that try to come in and take us down. But with that, I try to always have like a little quick list, and my little quick list is right here. I have it in my bathroom, I have it in my office, I have it in my kitchen, because we just don't remember in those times that we're anxious, what could we do readily fast to be able to get over that? So that's why I think it's kind of important to always ask my featured guests, what are some of the things that you do? Because it could possibly help someone else that is listening. Oh yeah, I can start doing that. Or you'll just think about it, because when you're in that rational mind, your unrational mind of scarcity, you're not thinking of what can I do to alter that. So it's important. So if it's your shopping therapy, girl, get your shopping therapy on. And your exercise, I know you say you do that. So yes, keep going with that, because it's just going to only help your process of your journey through grief. And so share your personal quote with us.
My personal quote is, I'm good.
And why is that?
Because that is what Ahmad used to always say, Mom, I'm good. So, I'm going to keep his quote going. I'm good.
Oh, right. I love it. I love it. I love it. And how can my Grief Nation listeners hear more about your story? What are your social media outlets, if you could share?
I can be located on Facebook, Alicia Taylor Campbell. I also have the Ahmad Campbell Foundation. And I also have another page called Justice for Ahmad and Alicia. They both have some videos of where I spoke with the media after his death. Mm-hmm. And I think I may have a couple of events that are also located on one of the two. And you also can check out my website, www.thecampbellfoundation.org. And that's for Ahmad. And we have different things on there where we got pictures of the scholars who got the scholarships. Mm-hmm. And we also do a walk every year at his old high school. Yeah. It's called the Campbell Memorial Walk. The very first one, Mary attended, and I'm very afraid of birds. So this young man who went to school with Ahmad, very close friends of the family, him and his mom wanted to get some doves, one for Alicia, one for Ahmad, because like I said, they were, they went together. Mm-hmm. When I say they went together, they went to heaven together, because they didn't even know each other. So they got some doves for us to release. Oh my! So I had to hold a bird.
Wow.
So I had to hold her breath, and I looked at Mary. I said, Mary, have you ever held a bird? No. And she's like, okay, they need to hurry up and say release. So that was very interesting. But yeah, we do this a walk every year, and actually this past year.
And of course, we want to do a boy for Ahmad and a girl for Alicia. So I have chosen two candidates. For the boy, Tyler Bullock. For the girl, Maya Day.
Good job, Tyler.
Mary had her first one walk in Chicago, and my sisters and I flew to Chicago to attend her walk.
Wow.
Yes.
It's so good that how you guys support each other. And I'm sure your bond, of course, because of your children, but talk to us about that relationship between you and her a little bit more in detail.
So Mary and I, after we finally met, when she came, the first time we met each other, she came down for the Campbell Memorial Walk, her and her sister, because she has a sister that lives in Clemensville. And it was like, we've been knowing each other forever. Like, she's my big sister. She's older than me. So I was like, and our bond, and the more we talked, we realized that Ahmad and Alicia had so much in common. Like, she was ADHD or ADD, one of them. But I mean, and I was like, yeah, Ahmad had learning disability, and and he ran track, she ran track.
Wow.
It was just they had so much in common, which was crazy. And I just realized today that Alicia's birthday is on February the 18th, and Ahmad's football jersey number was number 18.
Oh.
And so Mary and I, we talk weekly. If she's having a bad day, she'll call me. If I'm having a bad day, I'll call her. And most of the time we can sense when the other person actually have it. You would think we were just so entwined after this tragedy, but this tragedy has brought two families together that, we just love one another. We love each other. Unconditionally, conditionally, we just love each other, and we are there to support each other with everything.
Wow, I'm sorry about, of course, how the two of you have had to become acquaintances, but it's just a lovely story hearing that both of you can rely on each other and utilize each other for strength during the hard times, and remembering, and then that both of you remember each other's child on certain dates. That's a beautiful thing. I'm so grateful that you and her have this beautiful relationship that you have developed because of this tragedy. But it just shows us how we can unite and pull together no matter what the circumstances are, that God sees us and he always gives us a helpmate through it. So if I was to say to you, what is grief to you? So grief is, and you would say?
Grief is suffering a loss of a loved one that was just taken away from you, whether it was in sickness or in tragedy. It's a very painful, very anxious feeling situation that you just have to take one day at a time to get through it.
And grief is not
fun, exciting, none of the above. Nothing good about it. Is nothing good about it. It's horrible.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I'm often wondering, like, what do people feel when you actually talk about grief? And it seems like over the last, for me, of course, Tyke originally was shot in 2011, but when he passed in 2017, for me, it's just like, and maybe this is a bad analogy, but it's like when you get a new car, you see it all the time. You see that all the time. And so when grief actually struck me after the death, that word just became so popular or surrounded me. Grief, grief, grief this. It was grief that, grief that. And I think that's a part that has been a part of my healing, just getting used to the word and what it was. And I know I had experienced it, losing a father and a sister, but it was nothing like my child losing that, so it just became this word that I wanted to know more about and to help others heal through that process as I am continually healing. So before I let you go, what has your attention? And no, before I even say that, what is your call to action here today?
Honor, join to 644-33. That's my call to action.
Yes.
Get this, end this gun violence and work on these gun laws.
Absolutely. And how can one, I know you said you can either text, right? You can text that 64433 to join, but you can also do honor. And a lot of times I like to explain, if they do text honor, that's in supports that we're sharing our story. And if you're going to do the join to 64433, someone will be able to contact you to say, hey, we're moms and we want to support you. If you want to join in XYZ, we'll follow. I'm not really sure of how the text comes across, but I do know someone will reach out to you in statement of, if you would like to join moms. But I always like to give our fellows the opportunity to, of course, express their honor to that text number, because it lets Everytown know that we're doing our part. We're sharing our story.
Right.
So thank you for that. So before I let you go, what has your attention being a leader in your community that you would like to see change or bring further awareness to?
Well, like I said in the beginning, I attend Moms. The Man Action Group is about 30-minute drive for me. I would like to start my own chapter here locally. For one, it's very necessary here. We have a lot of Black on Black crime in this little county. Like I said before, Ahmad didn't even want to go out. He wouldn't even go to parties or anything here in our little small town because it was so much shooting and carrying on so much of that in our little small county.
Yeah.
So I would love to start a chapter. That's a goal of mine, working on it. I was hoping I would be done with trials so I can really work on it. Yeah. So I'm trying to keep my focus and not get overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. That's another way to self-care myself. So I don't want to get overwhelmed with trying to start a chapter and being able to keep it running well. Being a full-time employee is going to be kind of hard for me, but that's a goal that I am working on.
Okay, well, thank you, and good luck to you on that. And I'm sure we'll be able to round up as many that have started their own to support you. And I'll definitely be supporting you. And anytime that, you need anything with just getting the word out, even if you decide, okay, I'm going to start my chapter, but I want to promote it. I'm here for you to do that. Would love to see both you and Marion in the coming future to have both sides of you talking about your journey and how you guys have become, one family through the loss and tragedy of losing your son and her daughter. So thank you so much for coming on. It's the Miami Night Show, and have a blessed day.
You too. Thank you.
Well, there you have it, Grief Nation listeners, and thank you for tuning in to another transformative segment on It's the Miami Night Show Grief Talk. Today, we give thanks filled with love and gratitude for our special guest, Alicia Campbell, for expressing your very unique grief journey and sharing ways of understanding the healing process. This is your girl, Miami Night, with much love and light until we connect again spiritually. Bye-bye.
Slow
He's got me
mo.
walking that grief walk.
Going slow
He's
mo.
got me talking that grief talk.
Going slow mo.
He's got me clocking the
It's the Miami Night Show.
hey, yeah.
Slow mo.
He's got me walking that grief walk.
Going slow
He's
mo.
got me talking that grief talk.
Going slow
He's
mo.
got me clocking the
What up, tribe? It's Miami Night Show, Master Grief Coach. Welcome to the Miami Night Show. You got me walking that grief walk. It's time for Grief Talk, y'all.
I talk about things you think about.
It's Miami Night Show, Master Grief Coach.